So we got involved with Juno Megara in 2012. Around Christmas time, we had heard about it through Small World Connections. With Brendan told me about the ministry when he heard that I had a heart for Africa. Grew up in Africa for a little while and had taken many trips there. So Ben Tumaherwe came to our church and shared about the vision, and we took up a Christmas offering project that allowed us to sponsor 7 children for that next year as a church. And then we planned a trip in 2013 to go visit those children, and each of those children were taken up by team members on that trip to carry on that sponsorship. Plus we added about 20 more as we came back, and just felt the call to be an advocate and a champion for that ministry and to show the father heart for the orphan in our congregation. So that's how it began, but it really has flourished from there. After we came back, we ended up taking this. We've gone 5 times now as a church, and almost half of our congregation has been. More than half of our congregation sponsors children. We have about 60 children sponsored now. One of the really unexpected ways, kind of the spirit threads that you don't expect, where you start following them and you see what God's up to, is on that first trip I was really impacted by how they discipled the orphans between high school and university in a program called Abide. And it's a 6-month residential discipleship program. And I really felt like we needed to start something like that back at home. And we did, and through a series of crazy circumstances, God brought 6 guys to live together in a community called Goofy Ridge near us, and a church has been planted out of that, which was totally an unexpected overflow of kingdom values and ideas that came from watching what God was doing there in Juno Megara. Another unexpected thing that happened is a couple trips in, we were really joined in a mission and a passion for the refugees there. And Herbert Anamani, who's the acting managing director of Juno Megara, has his PhD in psychology and has studied trauma therapy with refugees. And we have now helped him launch another nonprofit called Hope Partners Africa, which works with refugees in the area. And 2 of the people within our church are on the board of that ministry. And one of them has also started a business called Free Indeed, which helps employ refugee women and then sells what they make, jewelry and different crafts, to give them the dignity of income and to provide for their families. So all of those kind of ways that God's weaved in wouldn't have happened if we hadn't gotten connected with Juno Megara. Probably the most effective way to really have a deep relationship with a ministry partner is for that partner to host a team to come. And that's labor intensive. It costs a lot of time and energy to host a team. And so we've always seen just gracious hospitality, specifically with Juno Megara. Many of their leadership have been in our homes as they come, and come to share about the ministry. But when we go to where they are, they give up their time with their family, and they're traveling all around the country to help us be engaged in mission. And never once have I seen like a grumbling or complaining spirit with them. It's always a joy, because they believe in what God's calling them to do, and they believe in the partnership that's developing. They enjoy equipping us in our areas of ministry there. So we've always been honored and overwhelmed by their generosity and hospitality. That's probably the number one way. But then going out of their way to keep us informed about what God's doing with our investment, so that they're updating us on what's going on with the children, with the different care points. So we're confident that the investment we're making is actually producing a kingdom impact. Well, God's called us to show and share the gospel, and it requires an investment of time, our energy, our resources. And like I said before, you can't outgive God. And as you invest in His kingdom work, He just increases your heart for what He's doing, and He realigns your priorities. And so you start measuring things different than the world does. You have a different metric system. So the church doesn't exist for herself. She's a means to demonstrate the kingdom to the world. And so each individual congregation, local faith family, can't look out for their own interests. They have to, like Christ, have that mindset of humbly valuing others above themselves. And when you do that, you start measuring not seating capacity, how many people are in this room, and what can we do within this building and our programs and for our people. You start measuring sending capacity. How many people are we launching? We're multiplying disciples, not just with our neighbors, but also with the nations. And how many people are actually living this out in a way that's making a kingdom impact here and around the world. It's not global or local. I call it glocal. It's both and. It always has to be. You'll be my witnesses in Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria and to the ends of the earth. It's concurrent circles of a kingdom impact. And our people will only grow to a certain point if they're not seeing the big picture, what God's doing around the world. And so for us, it meant realigning our church budget. And for me personally, we reduced our salary by half to increase our giving to missions, to show and demonstrate to the people our desire to be outward focused. And so our desire was to develop a budget that would reflect that we're giving more away than we're keeping for ourselves. And it also means, just like the church at Antioch, letting go of your best. And we painfully, with tears, letting go of the best people that we've raised up and releasing them, not just to work in Juneau Amagara, but around the world to unengaged mission areas and to different ministry efforts. And each time you let go of someone, it hurts, but God's been so faithful to bring others along, and you just kind of see a culture develop of sending. Anytime that we join Jesus on mission, it's not something we're initiating. He's already there. He's already at work. Your perspective on Him and on what He's doing in the world grows. And so you're blessed to put into practice right where you are locally what you're learning. So the Father heart of God for the orphan translate not just into the 140 million orphans there are in the world, but the billions and billions of spiritual orphans there are. So you see and you feel tangibly as you hug a child who's lost a mother or father due to AIDS, and God's using you to give them opportunities that they wouldn't have, and you just sense like this is what Jesus would do. If you see, these are the least of these that He was talking about, and when we join Him on mission, we're actually serving Him, and it increases our love for Him and our worship, and it also then helps us see He's at work back at home. Right across the street there's someone that doesn't yet know Him, and He's worthy of their worship. And now that love of Christ that compelled you to get on a plane to go across the ocean to Uganda now actually compels you to go across the street and knock on a door there. And so it just is this kind of fueling nature of God's worth, and our motivation changes. So that's what it just transforms the culture of a church when they're involved in international missions. And it never substitutes what God's called them to do locally. It always enhances it. That's what I've found. So any pastor that is looking to maybe launch into a short-term mission trip or a partnership, I would say connect with a mission organization that you're confident with, that is sharing the gospel accurately, that has authentic fruit out of an overflow of their own love for Christ, and connect deep. Keep going back to that same ministry and broaden your impact there, and then come back asking, what am I learning over there that I can put into practice here? And then the vision will just kind of multiply and overflow life on life.